I'm going to address people's questions from section 7.1. Before I do that, I wanted to show something that I think can come in handy at some point. It's how to convert between different types of units. And I hope this is something you all have seen in a science class at some point. I can't guarantee that, but it can be called different things. I learned this as something called dimensional analysis when I was in my advanced freshman science class. I think a lot of our science classes now call this the factor label method, okay? The name doesn't really matter all that much, but the idea is very important. Let's say you've got 50 miles per hour, okay? And I'm gonna purposely write the units like that instead of writing mph. So what this means is I traveled 50 miles in an hour. Or maybe I traveled 100 miles in 2 hours, but I would take the miles and I would divide by the hours, okay? That's what a rate is. It's some unit divided by some other unit, okay? So 50 miles per hour. And let's say that I wanted to convert miles per hour to feet per hour, okay? Now, most of you would probably say, okay, you either multiply or you divide by the number of feet in a mile. And most of us just kind of have an instinct about whether or not that number should be bigger or smaller. And I'm guessing a lot of you just do this without really even using any kind of strategy. But what you're really doing here is you're using a ratio, okay? And for example, hopefully you know that there are 5,280 feet in a mile, okay? You can make a ratio between those two things. And here's the key, okay? You should be able to show how the units cancel each other out to get your new unit. In other words, I can either write a fraction that 5,280 feet being compared to 1 mile, or I can write a fraction in which 1 mile is compared to 5,280 feet, okay? The key here is, if I multiply by the right fraction, I should be able to cancel out whatever unit I'm trying to get rid of and replace it with the unit that I want. For example, I would like to have a result that is the number of feet per hour that I travel, okay? So I would like to cancel miles, okay? So if I'm gonna cancel miles, I need something that has miles in the denominator down here. And I would like to have feet per hour, which means I'd like to have something with feet in the top, okay? And that means I need to use this ratio right here, 5,280 feet in every 1 mile, okay? And the cool thing here is if I multiply that, you can see miles in the numerator, miles in the denominator. I can actually cancel the miles. A lot of times you can use the units to figure out whether or not you need to multiply or divide. So in this case, most of you would have said, I need to multiply the miles by the number of feet to get the total number of feet in that many miles. And that's the case. But now we can actually see why you're doing that, okay? So 50 times 5,280 is gonna give me 264,000, okay? And here's the key. Miles cancel in the numerator and denominator. I'm left with feet on top and hours on the bottom, okay? So that is, you're traveling 264,000 feet every hour, okay? Now, let's say you wanted feet per minute, okay? I can make ratios either way. I know that 1 hour could be compared to 60 minutes, okay? Or I know that 60 minutes could be compared to 1 hour, okay? Both of those are acceptable ratios. The question is, which ratio do I want? Well, if I want feet per minute, that means that I want to have minutes down here in the bottom, okay? And that means that I want to get rid of the feet in the top, okay? So I'm going to take my 26,400 feet per hour, okay? I want to cancel hours, so I'm going to have hours on top. 1 hour is the same thing as 60 minutes, okay? And again, I'm going to multiply these two things. If I multiply these fractions, notice I've got hours in the numerator and in the denominator. Those cancel. I'll be left with feet on the top. I'll be left with minutes on the bottom. And what this tells me is, if I want to convert this to feet per minute, I'm going to divide by 60. Okay, so that answer there divided by 60 gives me a result of 4,400 feet is what I have left on top per minute. Okay, so turns out 50 miles per hour converts to 4,400 feet per minute. Okay, what did I really do there? I multiplied by the number of feet in a mile, and I divided by the number of minutes in an hour. Okay, but you can actually show the units canceling, which can show you whether or not you need to multiply or divide by a particular value. So again, I learned that concept as dimensional analysis, the idea of basically converting between units by multiplying or dividing in a way that cancels the unit you want to get rid of and leaves the unit you want in the place where you want it. Again, some science classes now I think call it the factor label method. So different names, but a really important concept if you haven't seen it before.